Why does Joy Behar have to try to ruin everything? Matthew McConaughey wasn't having it anymore with her half-baked and ill-timed interjections on The View, and it gave us one of the most memorable moments we've seen of guests on the show, shutting down the hosts. And this time, it was Matthew who clearly had enough of being burdened with partisan political and social takes that eventually forced him to shut down Joy Behar. There's so much to talk about with this one, so subscribe to the channel and watch this before we get into it.
Our next guest is one of the biggest stars on the planet. I know him, and I can't tell you how I know him, but I do. And he's just added being an author to his resume with Just Because, which is out today. Please welcome the fabulous Matthew McConaughey.
I know you too, and we can't say from
we
where.
Can't say anything.
Where is it?
It was back there. We did something.
Yeah.
We can't say what it is.
But we did it well.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
Well, the last time I saw you, not in person, but on TV, was at the men's final at the U.S. Open.
Yes.
You were in Djokovic's box.
Yes.
And you were the first hug he gave when he came up.
Yeah.
Do you guys go way back? What's the connection there?
Look
at that.
He's first friends with my wife,
Oh.
Camilla, right there. Look at her. Yeah, look how happy she is.
Oh.
And then I got to know him through her. We've had a couple dinners along the way, and I'm a big fan.
Yes.
I mean, what a surgeon and a warrior, and the resilience of what he's done. It's amazing. So. Anyway, yeah, I was happy to be in his box. Got to sit behind his parents, which was really awesome to see them when he brings them up and where they started.
Anti-vaxxer? I believe
An anti-vaxxer?
I believe so, yeah. Just saying.
Way to bring it down, Joy. I'm just kidding.
And it certainly is quite a way to bring it down. It's a pretty common theme you see not just with Joy, but also with the rest of the panel, where there's almost a guilt by association where you're saddled with opinions you don't hold if you dare to befriend people outside your ideological bubbles. I mean, that's even part of the reason that one of their own previous panelists eventually left the show after repeated friction with Joy Behar. I'm talking about Meghan McCain and how she was constantly lumped in together with broad criticisms of the Republican Party, even when her own views aren't as straightforward, and I think that's exactly what Matthew felt as well, quickly wiping the smile off his face after realizing that he was being out on the back foot in a similar fashion. He's always been wary of making any explicitly political statements, even though a lot of people try to glean his political beliefs from his broader social and religious views. And what you can imagine is even more infuriating is that it's not even his own ideas that she just implicitly tasked him with, but of Novak Djokovic. Novak made some headlines back in 2022 for refusing involuntary immunization over concerns that they traded on personal freedoms when data showed a person of his age and health could survive the illness. But why not invite him and ask that question to Novak himself? It's all part of a modern discourse and intellectual culture that feels increasingly suffocating and claustrophobic, forcing people to box themselves up to never have to confront different ideas. But apparently Joy Behar wasn't done yet. Next, she turned the cannon to Matthew McConaughey himself, asking him if he could get his political office, quote, being anti-gun. Considering his own views on gun rights and the Second Amendment are very nuanced and centrist, it was truly something to hear.
Well, I want to applaud you for being so outspoken against violence and gun violence in particular. And you're Texan, and you spoke so passionately at the White House last year in the wake of that shooting at Robb Elementary in your hometown of
That's why we're
Uvalde.
wearing these little pens, right?
Yeah, your
For
wife
Uvalde.
held up one of the victims' green Converse. Her name was Maite Rodriguez. Her mother, Anna Rodriguez, sent these to us. And to learn more about it, you can check our website later. But I remember that you and your wife were very involved there. And now you have launched the Green Lights Grant Initiative to help make schools safer. You're someone who really seems to appeal to both sides of the aisle. I don't think anyone thinks you're one way or another way. And in 2021, you considered to run for governor of the state of Texas before deciding to focus on your family.
Yep.
Do you think political office is in your future? Can you see that?
If it's where I would deem myself to be most useful,
Yeah.
yes.
Do you think you could get elected in Texas being anti-gun?
Do I think I could get elected in Texas being anti-gun? One thing about if me in politics is to give you a direct statement right there is be playing a game that I'm not interested in playing.
Okay.
To give you a
Don't
direct
do it.
statement
Don't
right
do
there.
it.
That one finger gesture probably made everyone at the panel uneasy because you could tell even Alyssa Farah Griffin and Sarah Haynes were getting uncomfortable with Joy's line of questioning, and maybe there's really no other way to shut down an implicit accusation like this. These segments on The View are only a few minutes at best and just one part of the total length of the show. There's no time to go off on tangents explaining his belief and policy positions on gun control, and it's that frustration to not leave the false message for the audience that translated in the firm gesture by Matthew. In fact, if you ask someone on the left that they really think Matthew McConaughey is anti-gun, you wouldn't get a straight answer. Between the political aisles championing gun rights or gun control, Matthew's often tried to introduce a different word for that political discourse, which is gun responsibility. And that's the most reasonable political middle ground that exists, advocating for stricter security and background checks while understanding the constitutional validity of the Second Amendment as well as the rationale behind it. Matthew McConaughey himself has made a more religious turn in his persona and outlook, which makes him somewhat of an outlier in Hollywood, and you can see how easy it would be for someone with a very linear political thought like Joy Behar to think that about him and needlessly extrapolate to his beliefs, other political and social beliefs. Matthew's always fallen on the center of the political spectrum on most issues, and it's easy to see that from how he speaks about his reverence for his family and the joy he felt when he became a father.
Look, being a dad was the only thing that I ever knew I wanted to be. I knew that at 8 years old. I remember shaking hands with my dad's friend who he would introduce me to, and he was a big sirs and ma'ams man. And I noticed that everyone I would say yes, sir, to over the years when I was 8, it's like, oh, the one thing that's common is they're all fathers. Maybe that's why I'm calling them sir. And I was like, that's my aspiration. That's when you become a sir as a man. And that was my idea when I was 8, and I still believe it in a lot of ways. So, look, as y'all know, those of you who have children, you find out that DNA means a lot more than you thought it did after you have a kid. They come out who they are.
Are they like you?
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And but they're all very particular and different as well. So we shepherd them along as parents with an environment that does matter a lot. But boy, they are who they are. The same things I was writing about their peculiarities when they were 2. They match with who they are, what I'm writing about them today.
Matthew is an interesting character in that regard, almost serving as a conversational bridge between the political sides. He can be invited on The View several times while also openly expressing his reverence for the ideas of someone like Jordan Peterson, who he's also spoken to many times. In the end, all you can do is trust that the audience is smart enough to see through the verbal traps laid by someone like Joy Behar, because it always leaves a bad taste. Let me know in the comments if you agree, because doing that to someone like Matthew is certainly a lost opportunity for a truly worthwhile conversation.